A data operating model is essential if you want people across your organisation to understand how data should work and how data should be used. But there's often a bit of a problem, which is that most data operating models are far too complicated. They can be hard to explain, they can be hard to implement, and they can be pretty hard for people to engage with. So if you've watched my earlier videos, you'll have heard me say this before, and that's that the fastest way to simplify and accelerate a data operating model is to be crystal clear about the data capabilities that it contains. So that's what this video is all about, because this is one of a series of videos where I'm helping you to quickly and easily create a data operating model. And if you want the rest of the series of videos to make sense, then you need to understand what data capabilities are and how to define them quickly, clearly, and consistently. So let's start with the basics. What do we actually mean by data capabilities? Well, very simply, data capabilities describe the people and the processes and the technologies that an organisation needs to operate in order to achieve value from its data. So they describe what the organisation must be able to do with its data, not just what data the organisation has. And this is where some organisations can go wrong, because some never really think about data capabilities at all. They work extremely hard with data, but without any real shared understanding of what the organisation needs to be able to do. And the result is a lot of data activity, but very little data impact, and a business that feels more data busy rather than data driven. Other organisations recognise that data capabilities matter, but then they hit a different problem, which is that they ask, that's fine, but what should our data capabilities actually be? And that question often feels overwhelming. It can sound like a huge design exercise, starting from scratch with probably endless debate. And that's the challenge that this video addresses. Now, before we go any further, there is one crucial principle that I need to make clear, and that is that data capabilities, they do not come first. They only come after clarity on your data goals. In other words, you must first understand what value data is meant to create for your organisation. I like to refer to this as, what jobs do our data need to do in order to support our organisation's goals? Another useful way to think about this is that a data vision is about doing, not having. Data success does not come from having a data vision or having a data strategy or a data operating model. Data success only really comes from doing the right things consistently in ways that achieve value. And it's those things that we need to do, those are the data capabilities that we're going to understand. So let me connect this back to a simple model that I've shared in previous videos. Here you can see your organization's goals shape your data goals. And then your data goals describe what your data needs to do. And those goals in turn define the data capabilities that you need. So data goals describe the destination, data capabilities, they describe the journey. When those capabilities are operated effectively, they drive achievement of data goals, which of course in turn supports the achievement of your organization's goals. This is why data capabilities sit at the heart of both your data strategy and your data operating model. Your data strategy explains why those capabilities matter, and your data operating model explains how those capabilities are run. When your data strategy and your data operating model are both built around that same set of data capabilities, you get alignment, and you know that you're doing the right things in the right ways for all the right reasons. So far, I'm sure this is all making complete sense, but it is usually the point where someone tends to say to me, okay Phil, I get it, but surely defining all these data capabilities is a bit of a big job. Well, thankfully, it's not, and that's because we don't start from a blank page. We use a data capability library. So, what is a data capability library? Well, it gives us a ready-made, structured way to define data capabilities at both strategic and operational levels. So at a strategic level, data capabilities are grouped into just 4 simple dimensions. And that keeps data strategy easy to explain and easy to engage with. And on operational level, those same data capabilities are organised into just 9 operational aspects. And this allows the data operating model to remain structured but still understandable. And behind both views sits this same common set of data capabilities. And each capability is defined by 2 things. by what action needs to be performed and then what outcome that action is meant to achieve, so that capabilities always answer both the what and the why questions. And now we go one level deeper using what we call facets. So facets describe how a capability should work in practice across these three lenses. So first, defining, which is basically, do we know what we need to be doing? And then second is operating, which is, are we actually doing it? And then third, there's measuring, which is, are we tracking how well it's working? Again, each of those facets is still written in terms of actions and outcomes, so that clarity and focus never gets lost. And overall, this gives us the sliding scale of detail, which is high level enough to communicate clearly, but also detailed enough to be implemented with confidence. And that's a key balance that some organisations can tend to struggle to achieve. So why does all this matter? Well, without this structure, organisations can tend to fall into one of either two traps. They either produce something which is so high level that nobody knows how to act on it, or they produce something so detailed that nobody really understands and can support it. The Data Capability Library avoids both. It gives you simplicity without vagueness, but at the same time it gives you that detail without complexity. So let's have a look at what the Data Capability Library actually looks like. And as you can see here, it's all in a pretty simple spreadsheet. And the first sheet, this contains everything, right? So the whole thing's in here. We can see here, each row's indexed, so it's just easy to sort later on. We've got each of those 9 operational aspects. That's what aligns each capability with your data operating model. We've got the operational objectives aligned to each of those aspects. We've also got those strategic dimensions. So remember there's 4 of those, and that is what aligns each data capability with your data strategy. And similarly, for each of those strategic dimensions, there is a strategic objective. So these columns here, these are all about your headlines in your data operating model and your data strategy, really. And then we come on to a capability ID. So every data capability has its own unique identifier. Then it has a name. So in this case, defining data needs and their real-world origins. There's a short title as well there. So simply defining data needs. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, each of the capabilities has its own action and outcome, so that we know what we're supposed to be doing and what the outcome of that action is intended to be. And then, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, we've got these facets, so digging into deeper detail now on each of the data capabilities. Each facet has its own ID, which is sort of parented by the capability ID. And again, each of those facets has its description. Here we can see those 3 lenses. So is this about defining? Do we know what we need to do? Operating? Are we doing it? And measuring? Are we keeping tabs on it? And similarly, each of those facets has its own action and outcome. So here we can see at a facet level, what are we supposed to be doing and what outcome should that activity be creating? So that's the whole data capability library in here. We've got some other worksheets which just provide summary views on it. So same content, but just arranged in a simpler table. Here's those 9 operational aspects. So if you want to just look at the operating model view across those capabilities at a high level, this is that, those 9 operational aspects. Similarly, we've got those 4 strategic dimensions here, and then we've just got a list of the 30 capabilities that are contained in the Data Capability Library, and then the facet level detail in here. We've also got another couple of sheets here which are the same data capabilities but just worded slightly differently so they can be used in a data capability maturity assessment, because one of the benefits of having data capabilities defined this way is you can then apply those definitions to both a target state and a current state assessment of the data capabilities that you have today and of course those that you need in the future. So all of these statements which correspond to every single one of the data capabilities, they all resolve to simply true or false. So you can conduct a survey that says, how essential are these data capabilities in the future and how much are we doing these things and creating these outcomes today. So another really useful benefit of the Data Capability Library is it provides a pretty quick and easy way to run a data capability maturity assessment. Now, you might be pleased to know that this complete data capability library is available to all members of the data leadership community. So if you haven't already applied to join that community, just follow the link in the description or the comments. As well as that data capability library, inside the data leadership community, members also get free access to all sorts of other materials, such as a data strategy framework, a data capability model template, and all sorts of other materials that will help you to simplify and accelerate your data value. I just want to make one final but important point, which is that the structure of the data capability library, that should remain consistent, because it's that structure that is what makes it scalable and repeatable. But the content of the library should absolutely be reviewed and then tailored to suit your specific organisation, whether that's the language it uses or the terminology or the emphasis and even some of the capability definitions. They should all be refined to reflect the reality and the tone of voice of your organisation. So after all, every organisation is of course in some ways unique. The contents of the framework, that's absolutely adaptable, but the structure of the framework, that stays the same. And I'm also going to repeat a point that I mentioned earlier on, because it really does matter, which is that none of this works unless you're clear on your data goals. If you don't understand what value your data is meant to create for your organisation, then frankly, you're not ready to define data capabilities yet. Capabilities exist to serve goals, so goals come first, always. So now you've got this foundation, you understand what data capabilities are, why they matter, and how the data capability library makes them simple to define and communicate and implement. So in the following videos, I'll walk you through how these data capabilities show up across the 9 parts of a data operating model and how they come to life in practice. So if you want to simplify and accelerate your data operating model and align it cleanly to your data strategy, just follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe on YouTube or both. And I'll also try to add links to all the previous and future videos in comments and descriptions as I go, so you can find the previous and next ones pretty easily. So that's it. Thanks for watching. And of course now, let's get data done.